Khalid al-Mansoor, the celebrated Arabian prince, and Noor Hassan, his fiance's younger sister, began a dangerous affair that spiraled into obsession, betrayal, and ultimately a bloody murder that shocked an entire nation. Prince Khalid al-Mansoor was born into a world of wealth, privilege, and expectations. As a member of one of the most respected royal families in the Middle East, his life was shaped by luxury and tradition. From a young age, he was taught that his duty was not just to himself, but to his family's reputation and the nation's honor. Every move he made was watched. Every word he spoke carried weight. By the time he reached his 30s, Khalid had become a symbol of charm and sophistication. His looks, fortune, and refined manner made him one of the most desired bachelors in the Arab world. Women dreamed of marrying him, families wished to align with him, and society adored him. When news broke that Khalid was engaged, it was not just a private affair. It became a celebration across the country. His bride-to-be, Layla Hassan, came from a family almost as powerful as his own. Her father was a successful businessman with deep political connections, and her mother was known for her grace and influence in elite social circles. Layla herself embodied perfection in the eyes of many. She was elegant, educated abroad, and carried herself with dignity. When she was seen alongside Khalid, the pair looked like a fairy tale come to life. They attended charity galas, appeared on magazine covers, and were described as the future of modern Arabian royalty. Their engagement was celebrated with grand parties filled with music, gold, and extravagant gifts that showcased their wealth and status. For outsiders, it was a flawless love story. Behind the polished smiles, however, Khalid was already feeling the heavy weight of expectation. He was not marrying out of passion, but out of duty. For him, the engagement was a transaction, one that would secure his family's influence and strengthen his position. Yet the world believed he was deeply in love. The pressure to maintain that illusion grew stronger with each passing day. Every glance, every gesture in public had to appear genuine, even if inside he felt detached. Despite his doubts, Khalid did not question the path laid before him. He understood the consequences of disobedience and the importance of preserving appearances. To everyone else, he was a man stepping into his destiny with confidence. But hidden beneath the glamour and perfection of his engagement was a secret yearning that would soon drag him into dangerous territory. What seemed like a union of honor and tradition was, in truth, the beginning of a story that would unravel with shocking betrayal and end in blood. Noor Hassan had always lived in the shadow of her older sister, Layla. From childhood, she was compared to her in every possible way. Layla was graceful, obedient, and admired by all, while Noor was spirited, restless, and often criticized for her rebellious streak. She loved attention, thrived on risk, and refused to follow the rules laid out for her. In social gatherings where Layla charmed with elegance, Noor captured eyes with her boldness. And when Prince Khalid became part of their lives through his engagement, Noor saw in him not just her sister's fiancé, but an opportunity for thrill and validation she had long been denied. Their first encounters were harmless, brief moments during family dinners or formal events. Yet Khalid began to notice Noor's fiery personality, so different from Layla's calm composure. While Layla spoke with restraint, Noor was unfiltered, laughing loudly and challenging traditions with casual remarks. At first, Khalid dismissed it as youthful immaturity, but curiosity drew him closer. Noor, aware of his attention, played her role with subtle skill, stealing glances, offering small smiles, creating moments charged with unspoken tension. Slowly, boundaries blurred. Their secret relationship began quietly. Noor would linger after visits, and Khalid, despite knowing the danger, would find reasons to see her alone. Each stolen meeting fed into a dangerous cycle of desire and secrecy. For Noor, it was more than an affair. It was her chance to outshine her sister and claim the status she felt she deserved. For Khalid, it was a forbidden escape from the suffocating expectations of his arranged engagement. The thrill of sneaking behind closed doors, of whispering promises that could never be spoken aloud, intoxicated them both. But Noor's hunger for more grew quickly. She did not want to remain hidden in the shadows, sneaking around as a secret lover while her sister prepared to walk down the aisle in front of the world. She began to pressure Khalid with dangerous demands, hinting that she could not endure watching Layla become his bride. Her emotions swung between passion and rage, and Khalid found himself trapped. Breaking away from her would risk exposure, while staying involved threatened to unravel the carefully constructed image of perfection he had built. What began as reckless indulgence had become a storm of deceit, envy, and uncontrollable desire. In Noor's eyes, the engagement was not a barrier but a challenge she intended to overcome, no matter the cost. Khalid, blinded by lust and fear, could not yet see the destruction that awaited them both. As the grand wedding drew near, the tension between Khalid and Noor reached a breaking point. What had once been a thrilling secret had transformed into a heavy burden that weighed on both of them. Khalid, bound by duty and image, knew he could not risk the scandal of abandoning his engagement to Layla. His family had invested too much into the alliance, and the public had already embraced the idea of a perfect royal union. Noor, however, refused to accept a life spent in the shadows. She wanted recognition, wealth, and the power that came with being chosen over her sister. For her, love was inseparable from ambition, and every day that passed without Khalid's commitment felt like betrayal. Noor's frustrations soon hardened into threats. She began hinting that she might expose their relationship if Khalid dared to leave her behind. At first, Khalid dismissed her words as emotional outbursts, but her behavior grew bolder. She saved messages, photographs, and traces of their secret meetings, knowing that even the smallest piece of evidence could destroy him. She reminded him of this power whenever he hesitated, her voice laced with the confidence of someone who believed she had already won. The fear of exposure gnawed at Khalid's composure, turning his once calculated demeanor into restless paranoia. The thought of public disgrace haunted him constantly. He imagined the headlines, the whispers in the palace corridors, the furious reaction of his family. His engagement to Layla would collapse in humiliation, and his carefully curated reputation would crumble beyond repair. Worse still, Noor's accusations could reach beyond scandal and turn into a national disgrace, threatening his position and his family's honor. For a prince raised to value reputation above all else, such a downfall was unthinkable. Every time Khalid attempted to distance himself, Noor grew more desperate, reminding him of promises he had made in moments of passion. She painted visions of a life together, insisting that she deserved to stand by his side, not her sister. Her obsession left him cornered, trapped between two impossible choices: betray his duty to marry Layla, or risk Noor unveiling the truth to the world. In his sleepless nights, Khalid began to consider darker solutions. What had once seemed unthinkable, ending Noor's hold on him permanently, started to linger in his mind. Fear and desperation clouded his judgment, and the prince who had been seen as noble and honorable was slowly descending into dangerous thoughts that would seal his fate. The night that changed everything arrived under the illusion of calm. Khalid arranged to meet Noor at a private villa on the outskirts of the city, a place where no one would question his presence. He told her they needed to talk about their future, a promise that reignited her hope. Noor, dressed with the excitement of a woman convinced her lover was finally ready to choose her, entered the villa with anticipation in her eyes. She believed she was about to hear words that would free her from living in her sister's shadow. For Khalid, however, the evening was not about love or promises. It was about survival. The air inside the villa was tense, heavy with unspoken truths. Khalid had been tormented by weeks of pressure and threats, and the decision he made was driven not by reason, but by fear. In his mind, Noor had become the greatest danger to his existence, the one person capable of destroying everything he had worked to protect. As they sat together, Noor spoke of her expectations, her voice filled with triumph, but Khalid's thoughts were consumed by the risk of exposure. Each word she uttered tightened the noose of paranoia around his mind. What happened next was a burst of violence born from desperation. Khalid, once known for his calm composure, turned into someone unrecognizable. The argument spiraled quickly, and in his frenzy, he silenced Noor in the most brutal way imaginable. The villa, which had been meant to host whispered promises, became a chamber of horror. Noor's life was ended in a sudden act of bloodshed, and the woman who had dreamed of taking her sister's place was left lifeless in a pool of crimson. The reality of his actions struck Khalid like a storm. Panic replaced anger as he stared at what he had done. He knew immediately that no amount of wealth or influence could erase the scene before him. In his desperation, he attempted to stage the crime as a robbery gone wrong. He scattered objects, forced open drawers, and tried to create chaos that would mislead investigators. Yet the staging was clumsy, riddled with signs of intimacy and personal involvement. The fingerprints of betrayal were all over the scene, no matter how hard he tried to hide them. That night, Khalid's fate was sealed. The prince who once stood as a figure of admiration had crossed a line from which there was no return. The villa's walls held his darkest secret, and soon the world beyond them would come to know the bloody truth. The discovery of Noor's body shook the Hassan family to its core. For Layla, the news was unbearable. Her younger sister, full of life and defiance, was suddenly gone without explanation. The initial reports suggested a violent robbery, but from the very beginning the details felt wrong. There were no signs of forced entry that made sense, and certain valuable items remained untouched. Layla, blinded by grief, wanted to believe the official story, yet a quiet unease settled inside her. She sensed there was more to her sister's death than anyone was willing to admit. Investigators soon began piecing together the inconsistencies. The scene appeared chaotic, but too deliberate in its disorder, almost as if someone had staged it. Noor's phone, once overlooked, became the key that unlocked hidden truths. Within it were messages, photographs, and fragments of conversations that pointed to a secret relationship. The name that appeared repeatedly in her private notes was one no one expected to see: Prince Khalid al-Mansoor. What had started as whispered suspicion quickly evolved into undeniable evidence. As the investigation deepened, Khalid's carefully constructed image began to fracture. Those who once praised his charm and discipline now watched in disbelief as rumors of betrayal spread through the city. Layla herself was devastated when she learned the truth. Her fiancé, the man she believed represented honor and loyalty, had not only betrayed her with her own sister, but had also become the prime suspect in Noor's violent death. The fairytale engagement that had enchanted society unraveled into a scandal that shook both families. The weight of evidence grew too strong for even Khalid's powerful name to suppress. Investigators presented timelines that contradicted his alibi, matched his presence to the villa, and revealed Noor's growing obsession with him. Each detail pointed toward a crime of passion, not a random act of violence. The prince who once inspired admiration now stood exposed as a man consumed by fear and desperation, willing to kill to protect his image. Khalid's fall from grace was swift and unforgiving. The very society that once celebrated his engagement now condemned him. No title, no wealth, and no influence could shield him from the truth. In the end, Noor's death was not just the tragic loss of a young woman. It became the symbol of how lies, envy, and forbidden love can shatter even the most powerful empires. The secret affair that began in silence ended in blood, leaving behind ruins where a legacy once stood.